Black Myth Wukong is a game that has something I feel is sorely lacking from most modern games, and that's authenticity. It's not the only game that does it. There's plenty of great examples in recent years, but it is currently my favorite. Today when I look out at video games, I see a lot of them that are neon signs. They're loud and they're screaming out at you, "Look at me, look at me. I have all of the checkboxes marked. I have all of the focus groups that have told us what it is that people want. I've done everything that I need to do to be a good video game. Come play me for years. We have expansion passes and battle passes and updates." And it can all feel very forced, very fake. It can feel manufactured. And to me, Black Myth Wukong isn't like a neon sign. It's like a quiet painting, hanging in the back of the room. It's confident in what it is. It knows what it is, and it doesn't need to be more or less. But if you look in its direction, it's very happy to extend a hand and say, "Hey, do you want to come on this journey with me?" And I'm going to say hell yes every time. And to me, it feels that way for many reasons. And it's not because the game is perfect. It's far from it. This isn't my review of the game, but the critique I'm writing of it is now 12,000 words long, and at least half of those are nitpicks and complaints and problems and things that I think the game could have done better. But I still found myself with the overall feeling towards it being, I really like this game. It makes me smile. It's so enjoyable. It's an experience that I like to have. And that's what stuck with me. The experience part. Because do you remember when games were like a whole experience? The whole thing, going to the store, picking it off the shelf, you bought it, you sat in the back of the car, you read the manual, you smelled the fresh ink in the case, you got home, you popped it in, you got to the main menu and you were excited to start a new adventure, to immerse yourself in a world of the unknown, to explore something, to uncover its secrets, and once you were done, you would find excuses to keep playing it just because you enjoyed being in that world so much. There's a lot in Black Myth Wukong that combines nostalgia and originality that does take me back to those days. One of the big advantages it has is that, at least for me and I imagine for a lot of people, I'm not familiar with Chinese mythology. So getting to explore it feels very new, in the same way that a lot of those worlds felt when I was a kid. I didn't know what references developers were making. I didn't know what they were inspired from. When I played video games on my PS2, a lot of the time it was just the first time I was even understanding some of the concepts they put forward, some of the visual designs. It was all fresh. Especially when I played games from Japan, where some of the things were just crazy to me. I remember, Final Fantasy X. It was so imaginative, so inventive, that I was constantly wowed by everything that was in that game. And that feeling of complete creativity, I think, has started to disappear a bit. And Wukong, lucky for it, because it's set in a world that normally we aren't exposed to, does have that feeling of awe for me when I play it. Which doesn't mean that it in itself is super original. I'm sure that for people who are Chinese and are more familiar with these things, they're thinking it's a very creative interpretation of something, but I'll take that feeling wherever I can get it. The other part of it is the fact that it's a complete game. Like those games I used to go pick up at GameStop. It's all there, and it doesn't want to be more than that. And that does help a lot. But the way that I feel its authenticity as a game that wanted to be what it is, warts and all, is in a lot of other things. I believe that great video games transcend a bit from the screen. They reach out to you and they create a deeper connection with the player for one reason or another. Be that amazing games to control where the kinesthetics are just incredible, or games that present a world that you just can't get enough of, or that tell stories that stay with us for a very long time. And I don't think Black Myth Wukong stands with my best of the best. Once again, it's a game with which I have many problems, but it is a game that I think did establish that connection with me in how authentic it is. People talk a lot about how good it looks graphically, but I think that it's much more impressive in its artistry and its attention to detail. How every cinematic is very carefully framed, and it uses so many different techniques to express the emotions of the characters. How it conveys joy and triumph and sadness and loss and misery and intimacy. How it can be so playful and wildly creative with some of its mechanics. How it's not afraid to interrupt the flow with something completely new, even if it's just for the tiniest little bit of gameplay to shake things up. How every cutscene from the chapter introductions are a completely different style, and they tell these wonderful stories that remind me of the fables that I would hear when I was younger. If you've reached that cutscene for chapter 3 with the fox, I think you know what I'm talking about, because I couldn't believe it. There's just felt like so much love, like so much intention in doing this, just this, that then is all over the game. I think that from the little information we had of the game before we got to play it, people knew it was a badass action game where you got to be the Monkey King or at least something similar, and it does fulfill that. There is badass action in the game, but I didn't expect it to be so tactful in the way it tells its stories and how it breaks them up, and how each chapter could be its own little novel in the saga of the Destined One, with its self-contained stories and the characters that sometimes cross over and sometimes don't. But even when you bring it down to some of the more mundane aspects, that attention to detail is there. The way that so many bosses are in this game, and so many of them are completely unique, and so many of the ones that are reused are reskinned and fit thematically with major changes to their mechanics. Any other developer would have thought, hey, we've made, 80 different bosses, we should reuse some of them from time to time. We can pad out the content, and we can say in our trailers, featuring over 140 boss fights or whatever. But they didn't do that, because, at least to me, it feels like every boss is meant to be where it is, present the challenge that it does, and that's it. They're meant to feel special, especially the ones that are secrets, the ones that are meant to reward players for looking deeper into the game. And that to me feels authentic, like people making the game they want to make. Now that doesn't mean that it's perfect even for them. I'm sure that they have many things they would have liked to polish up, even major things that they would have liked to change or mechanics to introduce. But you know what they say, there's perfect art, and then there's art that exists. But within all of that, it's not fake. It's not trying to do the thing that everybody else has done 20 times before. Its mechanics and some of its gameplay might remind us a lot of plenty of other games that have come before it. But the way that it carries itself is that of a game that is happy being it. And when I look at it and I see a project that can confidently come out from a small studio in China, competing with the big boys in the AAA space, which from the start, to many people, it might have been crazy. Like, how are you going to appeal to a Western audience when they don't know anything about Chinese mythology? Completely misunderstanding how excited people could be to delve into that, for example. When I see this project having all of this success, I can't help but look at the other examples we have. I look at Concord and how it crashes and burns, very clearly from chasing market trends and being late to the party. I see Star Wars Outlaws, and I see a game that wanted to be something different, a game that wanted to be more Splinter Cell, more Beyond Good and Evil, but it needed to fulfill certain expectations. It needed to check all of the boxes. Because it's a Ubisoft game and it's Star Wars, there's a big partnership with Disney pending on this. We need to give people what they expect, even if what they expect is not very special. We need the open world, we need the map markers, we need the progression systems. They need to be there, even if that's not what this game should be, even if that's not what the people making it want it to be. It needs to. And along came Wukong, ready to fight with the giants, with much bigger budgets and much more staff, pun intended, and says, I'm a AAA single-player game with no pre-order, early access, season pass. I'm just this. And I don't think it's a coincidence that people like that. And I'm sure there's marketing executives mad that a game as successful as Wukong didn't have a early access $120 edition that came with 3 ugly outfits. I'm sure there's people out there thinking about the potential to make more money, or about how they could have changed the game to be more palatable to current market trends, according to so much analysis and data and focus groups. But that's why it all comes down to authenticity for me. A game that just is. It is what it is, and it invites you to play it. And you can take them up on that offer or not. It doesn't need to scream at you and tell you how great it is. It doesn't need to make you empty promises over and over again, because it's a game that's committed to you starting it up, reaching that start screen, and going on an adventure, exploring a brand new world, uncovering its secrets, and just living there for a while. And that's why, despite all of its flaws, despite all of the issues that I have with the game, which that video is coming up very soon, I feel this way about it. I think it's a special game. It exists like some of the other games I've enjoyed recently, be that Lies of P or Stellar Blade or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or, I don't know, Ask Libra. I mean, a ton of indie games, let's be honest. It's a game that has heart to it, that has intention behind it, and I can't help but respect it and admire it, even when I hate it. And that's why it might not have the typical traits that I think make a game really connect with people, really stand out in their mind for years to come, but it still does for me. In every detail, in every way that songs perfectly coordinate with what's happening on screen, in every boss with a jaw-dropping design, in every secret that I uncover. I think Black Myth Wukong is a game that has that authenticity that lately feels more and more absent. And I'm very happy for its success. And I hope that the people who are learning from it don't just learn from its market success or how much money it made, and they learn that it's in the small details. It's in willing to take risks and be authentic, to do something different. And I hope it sets a precedent that people all over the world, including regions like China that are now getting into the AAA single-player space, can follow. I've been Mug. Thank you for watching, and speaking of following, hit the subscribe button if you want more videos like this. I upload all sorts of videos, from very big reviews like the upcoming one on Black Myth Wukong, to news, commentary, and retrospectives. So if you're not convinced, you can check all of that out on the channel before subscribing. If you enjoyed the video, hitting the like button helps. But overall, just thank you very much for watching. And an extra special thanks to my patrons up on the Patreon wall, who support everything I do. I normally say at the end of many of my videos, go out there and enjoy some video games, but today I'm going to say, enjoy an experience. Get immersed into something. Doesn't matter if it's a great kick-ass adventure in a virtual world, or a walk in the park with your dog. Just enjoy. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.